Story 1. I work in mental health, and my coworkers who have been in the field for decades say they notice that millennial and younger male patients often have male visitors. One nurse told me that male patients usually only have family visit, and it's nice to see this change. Story 2. My son is 30. He has a strong group of friends from various backgrounds. He and his friends have formed a buying group, where they all contribute to purchase one expensive gift for a member's birthday. They bought him a set of chisels worth $400. I am not sure how common this is among his generation, but it seems they have found a way to approach commercialism that surpasses my generation. Story 3. Millennials are likely keeping the toy industry alive, purchasing toys in amounts comparable to children. Story 4. They are doing a good job of eliminating toxic office culture and providing more work-from-home options. The politicians people elect are against it, so it is up to the younger generation to continue the positive progress. Story 5. They have embraced the idea of genuinely liking their partners and moved away from the belief that marriages and relationships are meant to be miserable shared experiences. The millennials in my circle appreciate their partners and do not view being with them as a chore or burden. Story 6. The YouTube video essay presents an entire ecosystem of individuals with doctorates in history, sociology, psychology, anthropology, philosophy, and economics publishing feature-length essays in their fields of expertise. These essays are designed to be accessible to the majority of the population. It represents the kind of liberal arts education, which embodies the art of being free rather than a subject, that social and political elites throughout human history have always provided for their own children. Remarkably, it is free, funded almost entirely by small donations from dedicated fans. Here are some of my favorites. If you notice a leftist bias, it might be due to the fact that most people who study the humanities tend to lean left, and the trend originated as a counterresponse to online far-right propaganda. ContraPoints was one of the first to gain popularity, redirecting young men on the verge of becoming fascists back into the fold. Always campy, always personal, and always vulnerable, her work is delightful. The Hunger makes me question the psychological toll of portraying the views of people who wish her harm. Philosophy Tube showcases exceptional writing and acting skills. Perhaps the best written and best acted of the group, their video What is a Woman offers one of the finest explanations of what we mean when we say something is a social construct. The leftist cooks are a well-read polyamorous couple who truly embody the spirit of this discussion. Their video Sex and the Revolution provides some of the most enlightening and moving material I have encountered about human sexuality, and their experiment titled This Is Not a Video Essay made me cry. FD Signifier, a Black American former educator, discusses issues surrounding Black people, culture, and history. How Not to Be an Ally was particularly useful for me and would benefit most white people. Chill Goblin amazes me with his humor. He is one of the funniest creators around, regardless of the topic. His video Free Speech is Ruining Comedy presents, in my opinion, the best take on the issue. It's worth mentioning that he is a stand-up comedian, with lines like, "I'm so white that when I walk around at night, I hear cars unlocking, coming easily to him." My favorite, however, is Fascism and its secret best pal, Colonialism, which highlights a direct connection between these two political phenomena that I had not recognized before. Three Arrows Down, a German history enthusiast, addresses the bizarre lies of far-right propaganda concerning history. The most iconic of his works is Were the Crusades Defensive?, which thoroughly debunks a stubborn myth among white supremacists. Sean employs a calm narration style to break down issues related to culture, history, and science. His 2-hour and 40-minute essay, The Bell Curve, offers the most thorough examination of the book relating IQ and race that you will find outside scientific circles. Bomber Guy rose to fame with his 3-hour and 50-minute video on plagiarism that shook the English-speaking YouTube community, though he was already a top creator years ago. Vaccines and Autism is, without a doubt, the best video on that topic, while Climate Denial, a measured response, contains some of the most memorable moments in educational video history. Maggie May Fish delivers incisive film analysis, examining the philosophical and ideological foundations of movies, especially when they reveal biases in their creators. Her series on the Zack Snyder films made me realize how much had slipped under my radar. She is a media analyst admired by other analysts and is my favorite YouTuber. Perrin was the biggest revelation of 2020 for me. What started as a small gaming YouTuber turned out to be a professional defense consultant, producing an unexpected video titled All Bling, No Basics, which provides a high-level analysis of why the Russian invasion of Ukraine went so catastrophically wrong in its initial stages. This video has received commendation from military experts worldwide, a feat not many YouTubers can boast. CJ the X is an intense creator passionate about art and philosophy, determined to capture your heart with beauty. If you have ADHD, they will be your favorite. Following Bo Burnham's brilliant Inside comedy special, many YouTubers shared their reactions and analyses. CJ the X launched a channel and confidently declared, "Let me show you amateurs how it's done." And indeed, it was remarkable. Innuendo Studios produces short and punchy videos on online radicalism mixed with media analysis. How to Radicalize a Normie offers a fantastic explanation of this phenomenon. His series, The Alt-Right Playbook, unveils the tricks and tactics neo-Nazis and white supremacists use to recruit individuals online, which I find extremely useful for navigating spaces inundated with extremist propaganda. Coots captivated me with an insightful explanation of the history of AIDS, clarifying its origins and spread in How Did We Get AIDS? Folding Ideas represents the stern dad of video essayists. He gained mainstream fame with a powerful video about non-fungible tokens right as they peaked in popularity. Before that, he critiqued a terrible review of a movie he loved in Review of a Really Bad Review. Finally, Thought Slime is a lovable weirdo who actively promotes smaller channels engaging in similar work. I discovered him through his video on a neo-Nazi novel titled The Most Hateful Book Ever Written. Story 7. Acceptance. I have never seen a group of people more accepting of various ethnicities and cultural backgrounds than millennials and the following generations. Story 8. Exposing inappropriate behavior and abuse. I have never seen so many documentaries and movements highlighting wrongdoings. Older generations often remained silent and allowed it to continue. I appreciate my generation. We may not become homeowners, but I support us. Story 9. Children who have a voice and are recognized as whole individuals. A work-life balance that the previous generation fought for and the newest have taken advantage of. An understanding and acceptance of many different walks of life, not just passively accepting but truly supporting. A strong voice to communicate with older generations, advocating for younger ones to help level the playing field. My generation has a lot to offer. We are no longer the teens or early 20-year-olds that many think of when they hear the term millennial. We are now in our 30s or 40s. We have been in the workforce and adult world for decades. We grew up with baby boomers and Generation X and have Generation Z and Generation Alpha of our own. We are the bridge between two generations. We can relate to life before the technology boom, which was much of our childhood, but we also understand life after the technology boom and use it to our advantage. We are often blamed for many things being ruined or killed off by older generations to make room for ourselves and our children, and at the same time, we are blamed by our children for not paving a better path for them. We relate to the sentiment of the Jimmy Eat World song, "It just takes some time. You're in the middle of the ride. But as it goes, everything will be just fine." Story 10. We are recognizing trauma and abuse from our families. Some of us have been manipulated our entire lives. Now, we are starting to understand and process that there was always something wrong beneath the surface of our lives. We all tried very hard for a better life, but some of us felt like we were constantly being held underwater. It is not us. It is the system, the wealthy, and corporations that have kept us down. It was also the family trauma and abuse that was never acknowledged until now. Additionally, there was the medical manipulation and the inadequate healthcare system in the United States that needs to change. Story 11. Breaking the trend of becoming like our parents. What I mean by this is not yelling at my child for holding the flashlight incorrectly or mocking him for crying. Many baby boomers did not provide emotional support to their children, and that is a trend I see millennials changing. Story 12. Breweries. Generation X definitely helped. But I feel like young millennial families eating smash burgers at a brewery at 3 p.m. is not something that happened 15 years ago. Story 13. Using all the paid maternity and paternity leave that we are entitled to when we have children is fantastic. Story 14. I feel that being intelligent and emotionally aware are the most valued traits by millennials, while previous generations often shunned people as nerds if they displayed those attributes. Story 15. Having a significant other that you actually love and care for is important, rather than marrying the first person who acknowledges you. Story 16. Being involved in child rearing is essential. We take our children to a children's gym, and it is wonderful to see so many fathers spending time with their kids. Some of them come without their partners, which hopefully allows their partners some personal time while they play. In our household, my husband watches the children when I have business trips, and I often hear older people tell me how lucky I am that he does this, as if he deserves a medal for being a parent. Story 17. This is an interesting observation. I've learned that when a generation is younger than you, some of their trends and phrases can be annoying and may make you feel outdated. It is easy to develop frustration and disdain for the younger generation. The instinctive perception is that they are too soft, easily offended, and overly sensitive. The truth is that as society progresses, each generation adopts new perspectives and progressive changes in how they view the world. This is beneficial and represents the right side of history. It is important for older generations to avoid dismissing or scoffing at these shifts simply because we are set in our ways and feel more experienced. Initially, I shared these sentiments. However, I noticed others around me who felt similarly become increasingly reactionary and adopt hateful viewpoints reminiscent of some darker aspects of our history. I realized that previous generations tolerated some troubling behaviors that I reject, and it is easy to fall into the same mindset without acknowledging it. The struggles of the younger generation may differ from those of my generation, but at their core, they often share the same essence. I am older and more experienced than younger generations in many respects, but I also make an effort to learn from them. Attitudes towards destigmatizing mental health, transgender issues, abolishing gender roles, and other significant topics took me some time to understand. I am grateful for the opportunity to listen and reflect on the discourse surrounding my peers who did not embrace these changes. I recognize how easy it could have been for me to adopt a toxic mindset while believing I was on the right side if I hadn't taken the time to listen. Story 18. Empowered autonomy. What I mean by that is we are no longer reliant on a biased news source with an agenda to provide distorted news. There have been plenty of times when people on Twitter have shut down some misleading narratives that major news networks were promoting or even identified someone the news did not want to expose. Even in terms of show business, in the past, individuals were at the mercy of studios and executives. While they still hold power, it is now possible for a person to pick up a phone or recording device, record themselves, and go viral. Regardless of your opinion about OnlyFans, someone can pick up a camera and make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of dollars without having to do things a sleazy director tells them to do that they may not be comfortable with. Our generation, millennials, is responsible for this new way of life. Story 19. Being conscious of the environment is essential. Previous generations produced many products that caused significant damage to both the environment, such as the adoption of fossil fuels, and to people's health, such as the use of lead in various items. The millennial generation has made considerable strides in promoting an environmentally friendly future. Story 20. For American millennials, there are extensive reevaluations of the presidencies of Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. Reagan was elevated among most conservatives and undecided voters. While conservatives still deify him, many in the younger generation now view him as someone who intentionally laid the groundwork for significant financial gain by the wealthy since pre-revolutionary France, and set the nation back by decades on social issues, mental health, and physical infrastructure, among other concerning actions. In contrast, Carter is being recognized for being a good and decent public servant. He is often criticized for failing because he did not want to engage in the dirty political game. However, that decision left him vulnerable to sabotage by the Republican Party, which actively undermined efforts to improve the economy and worked covertly to encourage Iran not to release their hostages. Story 21. As a millennial, I would like to thank all younger individuals for attributing so much wonderful work to us, and most importantly, thank you for fighting those issues alongside us. However, I must acknowledge that millennials were inspired by the few among older generations who could see through deception. There were also baby boomers and Generation X members fighting for change. Every generation has individuals who can see through falsehoods. We were spurred by the many awful things we witnessed growing up, including the climate crisis that was both predicted and preventable, and we watched it unfold, along with several worldwide economic crises and wars. We felt compelled to liberate ourselves from that negativity because it was evident that the old mentality of those in power would lead to our downfall. We were horrified to grow up and discover that there are no real adults, just a pretentious game that people play. Aging does not necessarily equate to wisdom. There are many who become foolish with age. No one has all the answers, education is flawed, and many feel they do not own anything anymore. Greedy individuals dominate the world, while governments often cater to the whims of a few while ignoring the substantial evidence and data that objectively demonstrate their policies to be ineffective. The United Nations often seems focused on appearances and maintaining the status quo. Responsibility is seldom taken, as many prioritize their own interests and quickly deflect blame. I believe many of us choose not to participate in that negativity. I think I reflect a broader trend among millennials when I express that, although I have always believed in and fought for various causes, I find it difficult to accept any credit for them. Many of us struggle with low self-esteem and feelings of being an imposter. So, it is refreshing to hear your appreciation. Thank you once again. Story 22. It hasn't happened yet, but you will be the greatest generation of this century. As humanity faces the worst crises in history, financial, housing, famine, natural disasters, humanitarian issues, and war, it will be the millennials who will have to deal with them. As the baby boomers are aging in the next 10 years and Generation X is getting older, it will be you who sets the tone for the rest of the century to follow. Good luck and make the most of it. Story 23. Present parenting. I'm so proud of this generation's parenting styles, especially when it comes to the fathers. They are involved, hands-on, and ever-present in their children's lives. Story 24. The AI age. Millennials are older than what people think. Millennials are everywhere and are likely driving much of the change we see. Where are they not? They are not at the top of politics anywhere due to demographic factors. Story 25. Workers' rights are important. Generation X recognized the need but lacked the numbers to make significant changes. Now, all companies are trending toward being more employee-friendly, offering generous paid time off, comprehensive medical plans that cover more than just emergencies, including mental health, physical fitness, and nutrition. They are also providing parental leave and flexible work schedules. Story 26. Male millennial fathers spend 3 times more time raising their children compared to Generation X. About 3% of millennial fathers have never changed a diaper, compared to 43% of Generation X fathers. As a millennial father, I couldn't believe those statistics when I first saw them. Story 27. Standing up to entitled people, primarily customers, involves calling out narcissistic behavior and removing yourself from abusive relationships. Story 28. Deconstructing the evangelicalism and moralism we were raised with, while also stopping the cycle of shame that was imposed on us. Story 29. Basically, here's how to have a hippie movement without the drug culture. Embrace acceptance of others, work towards ending senseless wars, avoid viewing corporatism as a life goal, and focus on self-reflection and care. These values may not fit the measurable metrics of previous generations but can foster a sense of fulfillment. Story 30. Pet industry. My wife and I are dual income, no kids, and our parents joke about how our dogs have nicer things than most children. Story 31. I just had a moment to think about the fact that when I am in my middle age, Generation Alpha will be blamed for undermining the things I consider good and valuable. I should probably prepare myself to question those assertions and understand where they are coming from. Story 32. Healthy father-child relationships. Millennial dads are among the most involved and genuinely caring fathers I have seen. From changing diapers and bathing kids to tutoring them and being emotionally available, millennial dads, of whom I happen to be the wife, are significantly more engaged in their children's lives than baby boomer or Generation X dads. The normalization of millennial dads doing traditionally maternal activities, such as rocking kids to sleep at 3 a.m., taking them to sports, doctor appointments, and birthday parties, is truly beneficial for us mothers. Even practices previously unheard of in my culture, like allowing mothers of young babies to go on overnight trips, encouraging them to prioritize their careers, acknowledging the challenges of motherhood, and actively sharing parenting responsibilities, are commendable efforts to support mothers. Story 33. Acceptance of LGBTQ individuals and racial equality is important. However, that does not mean things are perfect. It is an improvement. Story 34. Generation X here. For me, millennials introduced the idea of not making work the majority of my identity. Generally, millennials birthed the concept of work-life balance. Story 35. Not so quiet quitting. Boundaries. I no longer do any work past my regular hours as per my contract. I address any interaction that attempts to guilt me into anything. Story 36. I believe that there should be no judgment regarding being single or choosing not to have children. In the past, it was a societal norm that individuals had to get married and have kids. However, many people today may find it challenging to afford such responsibilities. Story 37. The irony is that they are not having children. Many millennials are choosing not to become parents. They have realized that raising kids is too expensive and time-consuming. They understand that they do not want to raise a child if they feel unprepared for parenting. Overall, millennials have given rise to a generation of self-aware adults who are keenly aware of their shortcomings. Story 38. Eventually, we will likely create a concept that the internet will refer to as quiet retirement, which sounds catchier than working as a Walmart greeter into your 70s before taking drastic measures due to a low quality of life and constant exhaustion over the last 50 years. Story 39. The renaissance of board games comes to mind. When I was a child, it felt like there were only 5 games in total. There are so many now, and they are all fantastic. Story 40. I am on the cusp of being the youngest Generation Z. I appreciate millennials for calling out rape culture and showing women that no one is entitled to their bodies. We do not owe anyone a hug or kiss. Boys should not be given a free pass. They must have respect. No, we do not have to be covered from head to toe as teens just because we have a brother living in the house, worrying that it will give him ideas. When I am speaking in a meeting, it is not my fault if a man can stand over me and see the top of my cleavage in an otherwise very modest blouse. We are not here to tempt these poor helpless men. In the words of rapper Kia, get money. Story 41. I feel like people who blame millennials nowadays just do not know the difference between them and Generation Z. Story 42. Having a broader mindset towards different cultures and identities is important for acknowledging and understanding them. Story 43. Do not allow yourself to be exploited by poor work environments. As a member of Generation X, I absolutely respect this and have embraced it in my own life. Story 44. Acceptance of all people, regardless of their background, represents a worldview. Many individuals do not prioritize traditional pathways such as college, marriage, career, and family. They are more open to diverse ways of living and being. I am optimistic that they will make positive changes in the world. Story 45. Halfway decent managers who act more like humans than previous models show respect for work-life balance, which is the most obvious change. Story 46. Emotional intelligence and not tolerating negativity in the workplace are important. Although I believe Generation Z excels at this, I think we initiated the conversation. Story 47. Millennials have birthed social media and its many consequences. These include flawed political discourse, the manipulation of people through algorithms, misinformation, and the commodification of individuals, alongside short videos that have diminished attention spans. Millennials have essentially brought about a significant transformation in the world. They have created something that has altered behaviors and the way we understand life. Story 48. I work in social work, and millennials have made significant changes. Social work has a long history of claiming to help vulnerable populations while often being the perpetrators of abuse, especially toward racial minorities. Millennials have taken many steps to hold social workers accountable and make environments like group homes, therapy centers, and hospices safer and more compassionate toward the people they are meant to protect. Story 49: Social media, as we know it, was created primarily by millennials. The founders of Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter are all essentially Zennials, although Jack Dorsey might be considered more Generation X, as he is a borderline Zennial. Story 50: Happier, more complete families. Millennial fathers spend 3 times more time with their children than Generation X fathers or baby boomer fathers. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.